Hello, everyone. My name is Roxana Reid, and I am the founder of Smart City Kids, an educational consulting firm in New York City that supports families through the New York City admissions process. I am here with a very distinguished panel, which I'm going to introduce to you in a few moments. We're so grateful that you're all here and taking the time to be with us this afternoon. I founded this company over 25 years ago with one mission in mind, and that is to support families in understanding the most ideally suited environment for their children, and to really help you look inward, to think about your values and priorities as you think about what's most important to you, and to evaluate them according to what makes sense to you. And with that in mind, we moved into making sure that the folks who interact with our families and talk to them about schools were also part of a rich history of former admissions directors who understood and were part of the admissions landscape and could talk to you about how they come to the decisions that they come to and what they look for when they think about schools. In addition to what we do, we really want to make sure that we support at the nursery school all the way through the college division, that we support a variety of educational opportunities. So we think about boarding schools, we think about independent day schools, we think about public schools, we think about special education programs, parochial schools. It's really the range for us that matters so that families have an opportunity to think about how it impacts their quality of life and is consistent with who they are. I want to thank my team, particularly Adriana Payne and Angela Zhang, who helped put together this panel. I also want to thank our education partners, Sloan Kettering, New York University, New York Presbyterian Hospital, and the over 50 corporations that we work with to support their employees through the admissions process. And I also want to thank our school partners, which are the JCP, First Presbyterian Nursery School, Smith Street School, Pine Street School, who have also supported us throughout the years in our work. Now I want to turn to our panel. We have Elise Bauer of City and Country School, Kristen Moreland of the International School of Brooklyn, Gretchen Kane of St. Hilda's and St. Hugh's, and we have Chloe Scott Curry of the Town School, and Megan Reitzis of St. Bernard's. I'm going to begin by asking each of you to just share a few notes about your school and help us understand who you are and what you stand for. Elise, let's start with you.
Thank you so much, Roxana. Thank you for having me. Just a few highlights about City and Country School. We're located in the West Village. We serve students from 2 years old all the way through 8th grade. We are housed in 7 brownstones back to back on 12th and 13th Street, which gives us an abundance of outdoor space in the inner courtyards in between. So we have a really character-filled, light-filled campus. Our buildings were former homes, so they have a lot of charm. We're also located right near the 14th Street transportation hub, so it's easy to get to us from virtually anywhere in the city. We have the distinction of being founded a long time ago by a woman named Caroline Pratt. So in 1914, Caroline Pratt was a disruptor. She looked around at the traditional educational system of the time and wanted to turn it on its head, actually, and create a system of educating kids that would be really dynamic, very purposeful, and something that would set them up with a very important mindset for the rest of their lives. The historical significance of our school is something that we're very proud of. When I think of City and Country, I think of it as happening in layers. One is the very impeccable academic foundation that is laid at our progressive school using research-backed methods and programs, the solid academic foundation as that base layer, but then additional layers, which we think of as bonus layers, where children are able to use their academic skills in purposeful contexts to solidify and synthesize those skills by doing practical, fun things around the school. And I won't take up too much more time, but I just want to highlight 2 of those bonus layers. One is the use of unit blocks, which are Caroline Pratt's invention. The blocks are used in a very specific way to teach children about the world around them and for the kids to do projects that, again, synthesize their understanding of the world, plus all kinds of other math, social, other academic skills. And then the other prong of the layer is the jobs program that we offer students from 3rd through 8th grade an opportunity to actually take part in the running of the school. So they get to do things like deliver the school mail and create a school supply store. And in the process of doing those things, they're using in a very active way the math that they've learned in their math lessons and all kinds of important critical thinking and problem solving and communication skills in real time. It's like practicing for real world stuff, but doing it in the school. So in that way, we like to think of our school as this little world where the kids can be the big thinkers. I hope you come and visit us.
So I like to do this in my workshops. It's called Pass the Mic. It's based on in alphabetical order. So this is where I test your alphabetical order skills, and it's by school.
Thank you, Roxana. Thank you, Elise. I'm very happy to be here. So International School of Brooklyn, or ISB, as we usually call it, we're a pre-K to 8th grade independent school in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn. We're known for our French English and Spanish English bilingual programs, and we're an international baccalaureate and IB school. Our tight-knit community of 355 students and their families, with just over 100 faculty and staff, are united by the shared values of language learning, curiosity, and belonging. And we come together each day to fulfill our mission of developing and empowering adventurers, advocates, change makers, and leaders. So that's my quick spiel. I will pass it to Megan.
Nice to see you all. I work at St. Bernard's. I've been here 21 years. St. Bernard's is a K-9 all-boys school on the Upper East Side. We're on 98th Street, right next to Central Park. We have 3 gyms in the building, but our home field is Central Park. So we have permits for all the fields there, all boys. So we love them and appreciate their energy and have gym every day and recess every day. Our mission, we see it as twofold: to challenge boys and to show them great affection. So we really think boys are capable of a lot, and we have a very high bar in terms of manners and kindness and just knowing things. So we're a traditional school. We have a curriculum. It's very knowledge rich, based on learning a lot of history and English and communicating well. And there's a big public speaking program. We are probably the only school that gets together as a school every single week. So we have a Friday assembly where the whole community comes. It's small, there's about 40 boys a grade, so everyone knows each other. Parents are very involved in the school, and we hope to see you. And now it goes to Gretchen.
Hi everyone, thanks Roxana for hosting this. My name is Gretchen Kane and I work at St. Hilda's and St. Hugh School. We are a pre-K through 8th grade school. We're located on the Upper West Side, right near Columbia University and Barnard College, easily accessible from the 1 train, or we also offer busing from the East Side. We are a co-ed school. We were founded by a woman named Ruth Younger. She was an Episcopal nun, and she named our school after 2 really unique saints. One, St. Hilda, she was the abbess of Whitby, and she educated girls and boys when that was not being done way back in the 8th century. And St. Hugh, who was a reformer, he was an advisor to Henry II. He was an advocate for his Jewish friends when anti-Semitism was rampant in Europe. And Mother Ruth, our founder, was really interested in this idea of religious diversity. So while we do have a strong Episcopal identity, we have families of all faiths, and we really do value religious diversity, as well as racial and ethnic diversity. About half of our population identify as people of color. We know that boys and girls learn differently, and we love that we're a school where both can be in classrooms learning and playing and arguing with one another and advocating for each other. We have gym and recess every day as well. We are an academically rigorous program. Our kids go off to the best high schools, and we're really proud that they're not only prepared, but also seen as some of the kindest and most inclusive kids in their freshman class. So come and see us. We have a beautiful 80,000 square foot building here nestled on a residential street between Broadway and Riverside. So hopefully we'll see you here soon. Okay, Chloe, I think you're up.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm Chloe Scotcheri, and I've been at town for just over 4 years. I'm also a current parent. My son Miles is a first grader at town, and so I get to experience our community both professionally and personally, which I think makes it extra special. And town is a co-ed nursery through 8th grade school. It's on 76th Street on the Upper East Side along the East River. We can see everything from the FDR to the water. We've been around for more than 110 years, and what's always set us apart is the way that we combine our rich academic program with a deep commitment to joy in learning and curiosity and belonging. You'll always find our students building strong foundations in math and literacy, but also engaging in hands-on projects, civic engagement, and leadership opportunities that give them confidence, independence, and a strong sense of global citizenship. And because we're a nursery through 8th school, our older students take on leadership roles across the community. They run assemblies, they mentor younger buddies, and they step into the spotlight at a time when their voices really matter. Families tell us that this model allows children to stay younger longer while still being stretched and challenged academically. What drew me to town and what continues to inspire me is the strong sense of community. Our teachers know every child deeply, and parents are true partners. We talk a lot about preparing students, not just for high school, but for lives of purpose and meaning. And so that's a tiny snapshot of town, but I'm really excited to share more, and I hope that you come visit soon. So thank you.
Thank you all. I want to start where this panel has started, which is that this is a K through 8th admissions panel. It is often the case that families will share with us that they want to be able to go through the admissions process and never have to do it again. That's the saying. So they think of it as from kindergarten through 12th grade, and they'll never have to do it again. That's the reason that they'll give me for why not a K through 8th. Can you lean into why a K through 8th for me?
Okay, so how old are you when you're in 8th grade? You're 13 going on 14 years old. And if you know anything about child development and you look at the developmental charts, you'll see the line go, whoop. It's a very vulnerable stage of adolescence. And when you have a school that ends in 8th grade and those vulnerable people are put in leadership positions, Chloe alluded to this when she was talking, if you can help the children be leaders at a vulnerable stage, then it gives them a lift. So to be the oldest in a school without high schoolers around to look up to and try to be like them, they're growing up too fast. It's a reach that's not appropriate for them. So if they can stay younger longer and do more age-appropriate things, it's a very healthy thing. But at the same time, although they're young in some ways, they're also quite mature. And they can reflect on themselves as learners. They can look around and investigate all kinds of the high schools that are out there. And there's so many amazing high schools at their fingertips. And they could go through the process and take a very active role in choosing for themselves what the next 4 years of their lives will look like. And that, of course, prepares them for the college application process down the line in 4 years. And I'm sure the panelists have more to add to that, but I just hit a few of, I think, the main bullets.
Yeah. So I have big ideas about the benefits of a K through 8 school. And Elise, you definitely hit on some of the ones that I think are most salient. I also think that as a parent of a young child, you are going to choose a school, whether for kindergarten or whatever year you're looking at, that suits your family, right? That suits your values, the things that you loved about your school experience, the things that you want for yourselves as parents. The program highlights, the data that you read about the schools, the faculty. There's going to be a myriad of things that you place value on. But when you go through the high school process, the child is asked to look introspectively. They're asked to choose the things that they want in their next school setting. I have a son, he's in 6th grade, and there's so much becoming that's going to happen for him, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, that I can't wait to see and hear about the things that he's valuing about his experience so that he can make this educated choice. I also think that it is a buyer's market out there. There are some incredible high schools available to kids right now. And so why pigeonhole yourself now. There's going to be so many options. My advice is to choose the next best step. We don't have to think about who he or she is going to be in 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Let's choose for who they are today. And I also think that idea of staying younger longer, especially in our city, is so valuable and something that really deserves a lot of careful thought.
I think for all schools on this panel, we specialize in young children. All of our teachers are trained in young kids, and it's all we're focused on. We're not worried about getting kids into college. We're not worried about talking about issues that high schools have to address. We can keep it a very small, safe world for young children. I have a son who's in 8th grade, who's in the process of applying out. It is not bad. As you go on all these tours, just stay open-minded and choose the school that you get that feeling of, this is a great school. For my child right now, I wouldn't choose a school just to avoid an admissions process down the road. Choose a school that really feels right for your family, because 9 years is a long time, and who knows what it's going to look like for high school. And my final point is that I think it can be really good for kids to adjust to a new environment at least once before college, to get used to an institution, to feel comfortable, to have it as your foundation, and then to move on to a high school and learn how to make all new friends again, and to step out of your comfort zone in the long run can be really helpful for anyone's development.
Two things. One, I totally agree with everybody. Town has a class called Decisions in 8th grade. And one of the aspects of Decisions class is they do 4 rounds of mock interviews. So we do around 10 minutes of interview questions in front of their peers, and they answer questions that they're most likely going to be asked in high school interviews. And then everyone gives really thoughtful feedback to each other, because they all know each other. It's an extension of their family at this point. And they learn from each other, and they're better because of it. And they take that with them to their interviews, but they also take it with them in high school and beyond that. And so these are skills they're learning that they're going to take with them. And when they come back as alums past college, they started to learn skills that they're using on job interviews now. And so they're learning about themselves. They're really having buy-in into their high school process, which means they're going to have a better experience. And what a gift to give to your child for them to actually have a say in what their high school experience is going to be like. And so we're really thoughtful in that process.
Great. We're now talking about the exmitting. Chloe got us to what exmissions look like at the K through 8th grade schools, which I echo, right? The opportunity to be supported in that way once you've gotten a sense of who your child is invaluable, and not something that you could get in K through 12th grade schools. The other thing is that I often see a lot of families who are in K through 12th grade schools who revisit the conversation because their children have developed into different kinds of humans, right? That are no longer a match to the institutions that they once prioritized when they were in kindergarten. I certainly echo that. As we're talking about admissions, I have to go back to kindergarten now and ask you, what do you guys prioritize? What are you evaluating for? How could they prioritize one family over another? I think they want statistical data, which we could never give them. What percentage of this? No, this is not a spreadsheet. These are humans who are trying to make the best case decision for fit. So could you help us to understand how you approach this notion of fit for your school? What are you actually looking for?
So it's a hard question, mostly because there is no one answer. For us at ISB, there is no one profile of a successful kindergarten applicant. Our approach to teaching and learning, we really look both at attitudes and attributes in addition to concrete skills. And I think that is really reflected in the admissions process as well. For a child coming into kindergarten, we are looking at things like maybe ability to hold a writing utensil or responsiveness to teacher instructions, familiarity with the school setting, but we're also thinking about these bigger ideas about being open to new experiences or comfort in asking questions, the ability to reflect on feelings and actions. And just as we all think that being in a diverse environment with a lot of different types of families and children is so valuable in our schools, that leads you back to that thing, is there's no one profile. We are looking for a balanced class with a lot of different types of kids and families who are all united by, in our case, that shared interest in language learning and international mindedness that can bring us together and energize us every day.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to take a stab at that?
I'll take a quick swing. One thing I would add is that we're a small school and we're very close. We're even smaller, I think, than St. Bernard's, Megan, you said like 40 boys per class. I think we are like 36, 37 per class, 35. But my point is that one of the things that I think differentiates our school is this collaboration that we really ask for with parents. And so during the admission process, I always ask families a question that's going to ask them to be a little bit vulnerable. What's a challenge that your child's having right now? Because if you're a parent, there are always challenges at every developmental age and stage. And so the parents that willingly come to that conversation with me and we can talk through, is it bedtime? Is it what sharing? Is it language development? Those are the parents who I know are going to be willing and excited to collaborate with us in the best interest of their child. I do look for vulnerability and honesty because this is a partnership. And because all these schools here, we really value early childhood and the young child, it takes a village. It takes a lot of hands-on and communication to raise these children that we just cherish so deeply. That vulnerability piece is key in our process.
We think of this, it's not just a fit of a family to a school, but a match. And that the 5 panelists, there are certain things about our programs that overlap, but I would say they were all really distinctive and very different from one another in many ways. One of the things that's really important is for families to be able to express what it is about each particular school that speaks to them. Can they articulate in their own words what our school is about and what speaks to them about the individual school? Because someone said it's a buyer's market. Yeah, it's true. But show the school that you really want to be there. Because just like we want the families to come, we want the families to really want to be here. Do they embrace and can they articulate what is it about the school, the reasons why they want to be here in detail?
Talking about articulating why a family may want to be at your school and being very clear about who you are and what you stand for institutionally. What often happens for us is that families will come with their own biases or word on the street or park bench rumor about each and every one of you, right? Here's what we think you are, in spite of all the data points that you've offered in your websites and tours, right? And it's our job often to manage the myth and the misinformation. What do you know about that for your own schools? And what would you like to clarify in terms of myth busting in this panel that you think would be helpful for those in the audience to get much more clarity on?
I think we are known for being very academically rigorous, and I think some people assume that must mean it's a very rigid school. I don't really know what they have in mind, but the most common thing we hear when people leave the tour is, this is the warmest school we've seen, and there's a sense of humor here, and the boys are so happy. We're not able to get the boys to achieve the level they're achieving if they feel emotionally unsafe. We are obviously making an environment where the boys feel comfortable getting it wrong and trying again. And I guess that would be the biggest myth. And maybe also about single gender schools is that I think maybe some people have an idea of what an all boys environment might look like. And so that can be a surprise too, is that it's actually much, in my opinion, less gendered than you might think, because there's not this reference point of, oh, the girls are doing that and the boys are doing that. We can try as hard as we can, but children get messages about genders and what it means to be a boy. And I think here our boys are all in the class play, they're all going to the ballet, they're all playing flag football. There's just exposure to everything, and that reference point of, oh, that's a girl thing, is gone.
Thank you. Now I'll just play this video whenever it comes up. Anyone else?
Just on the flip side, a misconception is town is always noted as being very warm and friendly. And I think that is very true, but that can sometimes be in place of being incredibly academic. But I would say we are all of the things. We are very warm and friendly, and we are also very academic. And our kids are incredibly prepared for whatever environment they go to next for high school. And I think what's important to know is that our kids wouldn't be able to be pushed as much as they are or take as many risks as they do if they weren't as comfortable and feel as safe and have as deep of connection with the faculty and staff as they do here if we didn't have the warm environment that we currently have. So I think both need to be true. As Megan was saying about St. Bernard's too, I think you can't have one without the other. And so I think while we are known for our warmth, our academics are just as robust. Our kids go to the right school for them, and they go to every school in the city. Because we're not a feeder school for one particular school, we're very thoughtful in making sure that our kids go to the school that's right for them.
I was going to say exactly what Chloe was saying about city and country. The misconception is, oh, it's all about creativity and it's not as rigorous academically, and the opposite is true. One piece of advice I have that I hope the panelists would probably agree on with me is that, yeah, there are these park bench myths, but when you're out there and you're in the playground and you hear people saying these things, go and find out for yourself. Take everything with a grain of salt, because the rumors can be powerful and not match the reality whatsoever. So my advice is to listen to what your friends and neighbors have to say, but make your own decision and base your opinions on what and in here for yourself.
And also think about your own child.
Yeah, and whether it's a fit, as we're thinking about curriculum and fit, a lot of folks are talking to us about AI and AI learning and what it means for the future of education and how are schools incorporating that into their program and how it evolves over the years. I'm very curious to understand what your schools are doing about it and how is it being incorporating, what conversations are you having about AI?
I think we're all shielded in a way in that we're not having to face it the way high schools are having to face it right now. And working with young children, the closest analogy is when the calculator came out. It doesn't mean you just stop teaching addition. There's still a need for a foundation. So we are still very much focused on writing well and speaking well and reading long books. There was just an article in the Wall Street Journal where the company that makes blue books that we all took exams in college is going gangbusters right now because colleges are going back to in-person writing. So there's still a focus on all of those foundational skills for us. Obviously, the children are going to be faced with it. And so it's more how can you use it as a tool, and as the kids get older, here 7th and 8th grade, what is a prompt you might use to answer this, or here's an output from an AI generator, what are the mistakes that you can find in it? But I think we are shielded in a way.
For our age range, like Megan said, we're not incorporating it into classroom curriculum. At the same time, we have an AI task force made up of our head of schools, board members, parents, faculty, and staff who are meeting periodically to provide their recommendations on their thoughts on best practices and how it relates to towns. As of now, it's not incorporated into our curriculum, but they will continue to meet and think about how are teachers using it? Are they using it? Should they use it? What platforms should they be using? All of those kinds of questions. We know that our peer schools with high schools have courses on it, are allowing some students to use some forms of it. So we want our children to also know what it is, how to use it, and what platforms are being used. So we don't want them to be surprised by any of it. We want them to have digital literacy. It's being discussed and talked about and taught about what it is, but it's not a tool that they're using to do work.
I have another question for you. A lot of times parents want to understand what they can or cannot share about their child's profile. Often if they have a child who has ADHD or dyslexia or some kind of learning difference, they wonder how it impacts their admissions into schools, and they wonder whether they should even disclose. I wonder if you could offer what advice you should give to parents about disclosure.
I think we've already hit on this idea that it might not always feel this way, but that the goal of the admissions process is to find the best school fit for your child, a place where they'll be seen, supported, and challenged for who they are as a learner and as a person. So we really welcome families sharing details about how their child moves through the world and how they learn. I know that can be really scary for families. So my main encouragement would be for you to share information about an evaluation or a diagnosis as early as you feel comfortable, whether that's during the admissions process or that's after enrollment, because this allows a school's student support team to have ample time to develop a strategy to ensure that your child is supported throughout the educational journey.
I just want to reiterate, families have absolutely no obligation to share. And at the same time, I just want you to know schools really welcome you to share openly with us, because concealing information just doesn't help anybody. It will lead to misalignment with a school. If a school doesn't have the right supports in place or can't get the supports for your child, it's not going to be a good experience for them. And that's ultimately what we're trying to figure out in our admissions process is, do we have the supports to make sure that your child can thrive from day one? We want to partner in the most effective way possible. And so the more information that we have, the better we can know if we can do that. So if you are willing to share with us, while you absolutely do not have to, the more we're able to know if we can.
And if you feel uncomfortable bringing it up in an interview situation, it's fine with us if you use an intermediary. If you're working with Roxana, tell her and she can privately talk to us about it, or tell your early childhood director and we can have a conversation and go that way.
I've been known to do that. So had a lot of healthy conversations about student profiles as we wind down this seminar. I wanted to also ask you about tuition costs. Why should people do this? Why should they spend the amount of money that you all are asking folks to spend on private education versus public options, particularly in lower school? It's a question that I also come across. Not everyone comes in bankrolling big tuition sums, and I'm mindful of that. So what's the analysis behind going towards independent schools?
I think one of the main things is the attention your child will get at any of these independent schools. They're going to be in an environment where every person, I'll speak for the K-8 schools, where everyone in the building essentially knows who they are and knows what they're interested in and knows what they were excited about over the weekend and can really cater to their strengths and shore up their weaknesses. St. Bernard's are in a reading group of 3 people. I don't think you're going to find that at a public school. So we can approach them exactly where they are and push them as far as they can go with all of the supports they need. And I think the second piece would just be the community you get at any of these schools. You are there with other parents who have also chosen to spend this large amount of money on this education. And so everyone is very invested in the community and the education and helping out, and they were all chosen by the school. So it's typically all families who have the same values that the school has. They'll be your friends for life as parents, and I'm sure your children will stay in touch and close friends with all the kids they meet here for life too.
Agreed with you, Megan, about the community and the attention that students will get. And that's all because we can manage our group sizes. We have some control over that, keeping the groups very small so that the cohort can get the kind of attention that children need to truly thrive. Children are really good at hiding what's hard for them, and we can uncover that and help them with those ways that they need support, and also to challenge them in ways that can go beyond, really they can show their potential. So small group sizes is one of the main things in my mind. We're also not prey to budget cuts and things like that, so that we can continue the kind of arts programming and art and music and movement and woodshop, the kind of specialty things that independent schools are able to provide that create the culture of the school and make each independent school have its individual mission and character. And yes, the tuitions are really high, but I can speak for City and Country that we have a very sizable financial aid budget. So I think that one of the park bench myths is that, oh, independent schools are just for rich people. So I think that part of our mission is to create real diversity. And with a sizable financial aid budget, we could create a very socioeconomically diverse population.
Yeah, I do think that almost all of the independent schools set aside a budget for financial aid to make sure that there's economic representation in the student body. And I think that families should avail themselves of that when they apply the first time, not after you get in, but when you apply the first time, so that everyone is aware of the need and they can, to the best of their ability, match the need with the admissions. I would think that in addition to the intimate learning environment and the community feel that the school has, an alignment of shared vision, one of the benefits that I often think about, because I'm a public school girl, my mom was a public school educator, and I sent both of my kids to private schools, is when things are great, it's amazing, right? One of the things that I found really interesting was my son went to public school for 1 year because he's an October birthday. And when he was in that public school, which was a gifted and talented program, it was really great. I remember the teacher seeing him first day of school, and she looked at him and she said his eyes were doing this and he was like furrowed eyebrows. He was really paying attention really closely, and she said, he looks a little angry. What's going on with him? And I thought, oh, that's not what I saw when I was in the classroom. Forward a year later when he went to the private school, and the reaction that the teacher had was more like, I feel like I've seen that face before. You might want to check for auditory processing. There's something going on in the presence of competing noise. He seems to lean in a little bit more. Check that out. And that's what I learned. That's the hyper nuanced experience. He's 33 years old now, and it's come up in other parts of his life. But that's how nuanced it was, that we were able to catch the thing that we could catch because folks were able to see it differently. In a 30 class environment where he was, it looked different. A good teacher, but it just looked different to her, what he looked like. That was my case for private education, was they were able to lean in differently, and the optics of it just felt differently because it was so customized.
It looks like in the Q&A there's a question about providing emotional support for children. You know, we've already touched on some of the great structures that we all have in terms of a small environment where all the adults in the school, not only the classroom teachers, know a child. That is a great foundation for providing emotional support throughout this transition from childhood to adolescence that the K-8 does at ISB, and I imagine at other schools as well. In addition to what's happening in the classroom, we do have a robust social emotional curriculum that we use throughout the program. We also have a lower school counselor and a middle school counselor that work both one-on-one with students and families, come in and do read alouds, push into classes. The small size really allows teams to be responsive, whether it's an issue that's going on with a particular child or in a particular classroom, teachers are noticing something, and so we want to come in and do an activity to help them with a certain skill emotionally. There's a lot that can happen there, and I think we are always paying attention to students' emotional growth alongside their academic growth.
That's a big priority for all of the schools, at least on this panel. We all want children who are kind to each other and have good values and are respectful. And we have our own social emotional curriculum. I imagine the other schools on the panel do, but that's obviously a big push. And being in such a small environment makes it very easy to reinforce those values to make sure that kids are all learning all of those skills.
Thank you. I'm going to ask another question, which was, why do you torture parents with application essay questions?
We don't have an essay.
Good answer.
And no fee either, so just apply and come see it.
We find it really helpful. It's a really good way to learn about families, and I would say question, not essay. We don't have time to read an essay from every family, so please, the more concise, the better. And at least for us, we sometimes pass that information along. When new students are enrolling, classroom teachers receive some of those responses, counselors. It's a good way for us to also onboard families and students. It's worth spending a little bit of time, but not too much time.
Yeah, to underscore that, we don't expect answers that are into the doctoral thesis length or whatever, but also it's an opportunity for people who express themselves in writing. There's different modalities to share about yourself. So someone who is maybe not as comfortable in person or socially, it rounds out the whole experience and offers another way for people to share details about their lives and their hopes. I'm imagining we don't have identical questions. So also a question that a school asks reflects the school's values. And through that, you can communicate with parents and have a way to teach the families even more about the school. So the questions are not just for the school's benefit, but I think answering them also benefits the parents.
Yeah, it's a moment of self-reflection, right?
Yeah.
An opportunity to extend the conversation, one that you've had in your meetings with the schools. It should be seen as an opportunity to broaden the discussion and to broaden the school's sense of who you are. We have a question that came up, and I think this one's going to be for Megan to answer. Could anyone speak to how, when a child is born, that is the month of the year, might affect their admissions? This question may be silly coming from those park bench rumors, and perhaps most for Megan, as the rumor is that all boys schools on the Upper East Side don't take boys born after April?
That is not a silly question at all. For us, I don't know about other schools, but we find that June is our pivotal month. So we have June young and June old boys in each grade. If your son was born in July or August, we encourage you to wait a year, especially with boys. Sometimes they just need another year to get it all together before they start school. And we find in the long run, fine motor skills are a little further along, and then gross motor skills for sports and all of those things. It can be helpful long term if they're a little on the later side. I'm talking July, August, September birthdays, but June is really the pivotal month.
Yeah, but May and April feels really
April's no
early.
big deal.
Anyone else want to take a crack at this? Because I do think it comes up a lot, right? If you say 5 by September 1, why are we talking about redshirting 5-year-olds? You guys are going to say we don't do that?
We see our September 1st birthday cutoff. That's what we go by. We see that as real. And if you're an August birthday, you're just as bona fide as everybody else to be part of the group. Now, the question can often come from the parents. Should I wait a year? And we always say, we will meet your child. And if we see any reason why they should, we'll connect with you. But we don't make a false rule and disregard those kids. So it's really when parents have questions about the suitability of their child for whatever age, whether they're too old or too young, we'll meet them and have a conversation about it.
Exactly the same. If you have up until September 1st, I have an August boy and he did not repeat. When we had conversations about it, and everyone met him and we figured it out and he was ready and he went to kindergarten.
I just wanted to add that it's also important that parents know that your child will not be the youngest by months or something. They're not going to be the oldest by months. The goal is to have a balance across the board and not be misplaced because you're the only one. And when parents hear that, I think that's reassuring.
Yep.
But I also think it's not a hard and fast rule as we hear here, right? Different schools have a different way of approaching this birthday cutoff. And the answer is check in with the schools to ensure that you're approaching this in the way in which they envision approaching the admissions birthday cutoffs, because everybody has a different position on that. I want to thank you all, since I don't see any more questions, and I'm fresh out of questions myself. I want to thank you all for being on this panel and for helping to shed light on what K-8 schools are like and how you envision your community and helping us to bust some myths today. I want to thank those who participated in the panel and in the audience. And if you have any other questions for us, please feel free to email us and we will try to get answers for you. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.